Oh, yes, record. Ah, that helps. Let me know.
Got it now.
All right. All right. Awesome. Cool. Thank you, everyone. And thank you for your patience as I was dealing with all these fun technical difficulties this morning. But I am here and I am ready to share with you. So, thank you for the opportunity to speak. This is a good way for me to be able to connect with everyone in the interfaith movement. For those of you who don't know me, I am Jacqueline Fuller. Feel free to call me Jackie. And I'm honored to be here for Interfaith Awareness Week. Thank you again for the invitation, Reverend Albert. I appreciate it. And this particular time doing this presentation for me is really exciting because everything is in regards to doing what I call the interfaith reboot, particularly like since the pandemic and coming out of like the whole situation around that. Things have been like sprinkling, kind of been moving slow in regards to what am I going to do next with all this interfaith work that I've been involved in over the years. So this year I'm looking like more towards doing this season of rebuilding, reconnecting, and reimagining, interfaith engagement for not only here what I'm doing with my media production, but in the DC region and how that's also going to take effect in the digital space. So moving forward there. Now you may say, okay, we may know this already, why interfaith matters right now. A lot of things, of course, is happening in the world, but in particular, what I look at doing is focusing a lot on the three things you see here, which the big one is storytelling with my background in media, journalism, and public relations, because those stories is how you get people connected, you get people involved, they get engaged, they take action. That's very a big thing where I see the heart of a lot of that is professional networking because when as we know when we get out here we get in our networks, we go to our conventions, our summits, our meetings, our gatherings at houses of worship. A lot of the connections we make there allow us to grow in what we do and do collaboration work, particularly again like events like this we're doing virtually during the week. That I also feel like is a real core thing because you're meeting people from different cultures and religions, and you're able to get various perspectives on how you can do your work or how you can collaborate with other individuals who are like-minded to achieve their goals and their calling in doing interfaith engagement. And then, of course, creative media, because if it's accessible, it can inspire beyond the room, like what we're in now, doing in the next space. You don't have to always wait for this week to do something. You can figure out from this week, how can you do it beyond this week? So that's another perspective I like with doing this stuff with Interfaith Awareness Week, what I do with the Interfaith Connections show, what I do with the organizations I'm involved in locally, nationally, and eventually internationally. So that's where you get the creative media in using things like social media, using YouTube, using various digital platforms to get the word out. Now, the big thing I'm doing right now, as I mentioned before, is relaunching Interfaith Connections. And it's been pretty much soft launches right now. So I've been sharing kind of clips here and there about what's going to happen with the next phase of the work. In the beginning, when I was doing interfaith work, it was a lot of it was education in regards to the various religious groups or the various religious perspectives. And that is still important. But I know also in an evolving world, people are also moving away from religion. And that got me a little like, churning more what's going on with that. Is it because there's less connection? Is it because people can do more things online and they're engaging in other ways? Or are they doing things beyond brick and mortar? So I just decided, hey, what I want to do now is focus particularly what was the original idea of the show was to get to various religious groups that you don't hear about as much. And I learned that particularly through my meetup group, which I'll talk about that next, where I would meet people who either left religion, they may have gone their own spiritual route, they may belong to a religion, I would say more like indigenous religions, that in some cases is more of the mainstream religious communities. They're not accepted, but yes, they have their own spiritual practices and they're looking for a safe place to connect with people and share their perspectives and things that may be happening in their life. Another thing I want to tap into is more of the uncomfortable conversations people may not want to talk about when it comes to faith and religious practices. I know another one, like one thing that came up with me, which is why I had also taken a break from my interfaith work. I had to do my own healing work on how religion was used as a weapon growing up for me. For some reason, I mentioned this in a podcast I did recently, with my mother. She grew up kind of more, I guess, in that kind of strict Catholic conservative environment. But then I think at the same time, when she hit a certain point in her life, she was trying to find herself too. So she was, visiting, or I like to say tapping into various religious and spiritual beliefs. But unfortunately, some of that fear that comes with a lot of those teachings, she brought it my way. And I had to do my best, even like as a teenager, to block a lot of kind of the negative things around that. But unfortunately, some of that was weaponized, which I started doing a lot of research around how religion is used to hurt people and what ways can people counter those situations, which is going to be one of my topics for the show. And I know there's been books written about that. So part of my work to get back into doing what I do in the interfaith space, I had to do my own healing work and figure out how can I also help people who are dealing with similar situations in that regard. Another thing that we had talked about, and I'll bring this up later as well, is money. Money seems to be a kind of a soft subject or a touchy subject with a lot of people in the faith-based world. But what I've also realized, maybe some of those money wounds or the money traumas people had is preventing them from doing their faith-based projects or their interfaith projects that they want to accomplish and get the word out here in the world. So I will address that later as well. Another thing I want to do with the channel is the short clips. I want to really feature more in with that as well, what people are doing in their interfaith work. It doesn't have to be like 10 minutes long, just a quick clip of like talking to people and say, hey, what are you doing now? How are you engaged in this particular faith? What motivates you to do your advocacy work in a faith-based culture or faith-based setting? How is that coming up? And just like, have you been inspired in your own spiritual journey? So I want to tap more into those stories, getting more to the heart of the people, not necessarily meaning everything has to be like, the head, kind of the headshots of people, you got the talking heads thing going on, but I want to get more people in their environment and action spaces with that. And then also I want to include people more in the behind the scenes of what we do so people can have a good understanding of what does it take to put on a production? How do you get people engaged on social media? How do you get people to connect in spaces where there may still be some hesitation as well? So that, and I think about that particularly now with a lot of things in the political arena. And that's the thing about being in Washington, D.C. in the D.C. area, politics is heavy here. So how can we as a production get more engaged into that world where there's a lot of faith-based advocacy going on, and we can highlight and feature more of the work around there? Because I feel like, these are the things that's happening now. We want to make sure, as always, with media that is timely and important is getting out to the people. So there's one balance there. But then also what you want to do in media work is what we call evergreen, like the content that can always be relevant and that you can use anytime. Maybe even something that's particularly inspiring could come up. You could say, hey, we saw that 6 months ago, but that would still be good to use now. So we're looking at those various ways to do that to enhance the work of the production and get more people involved in building that awareness around interfaith engagement and issues. Because one thing, again, that I come across in my work is that people say, well, people of different religions don't get along and religions cause so much, wars and traumas in the world. But I'm just like, at the same time, there are people doing the work to counter that. And I feel like that needs to be highlighted more. So hopefully, again, with the production and getting more people connected with their interfaith work, we can highlight that more and what's happening. Now, what do I do locally outside outside of this major production is a meetup group. Now, the meetup group was originally designed to highlight things that we're doing, like pub theology. This goes back to what I was saying about people not meeting in brick and mortar places like at a church, things like that. So the meetup group, we've been doing that since 2018, and we would meet in person. I would have almost kind of like a casual conversation. People get together, eat. Yes, there's alcohol there, but not everybody always drinks. But it's more because it was done like we would have that like kind of like your dinner after work kind of gathering, and it was just another opportunity for people who have want to make those spiritual connections with each other, those connections with people from different beliefs to get together and chat. So we found a location. Ironically, the gentleman who owned the pub, what was it? He was Muslim, but then he became agnostic. So I was like, okay, this could work. So I was like, okay, this will be a good fit for us. So we had it at his location, and we were meeting there up until the pandemic. And then lately, since then, it's been virtually. And now this fall, we're looking at getting back, meeting people in public again. And one of the avenues where we're doing that is, well, instead of just having it out here in Northern Virginia where I'm based, we want to have like a location in Maryland for the Maryland people who attend virtually. We would like to gather and meet up with them. And then hopefully we could find a place in Washington, D itself and make sure it's metro accessible for people to attend. But it was fascinating because I said this was like a version of a church in itself, because you will have the regulars and then you have people who come and go and visit. Yes, people of different faiths have been there. And like I said, there's no pressure to eat, drink, anything like that. We're very respectful of that. And I just provide a list of questions to ask the group, so we can share our perspectives. And that's another cool way of, fellowship and networking. So I figure at least this is more informal to do versus like maybe when you go to those events with the panels and the talking heads, or you go to a church service or a house of worship service where you may have to be more formal. And this gives people to kind of, just be themselves and just relax and chill. So that's another thing that I enjoy doing with the meetup group. Now, another thing that we usually do in the meetup, I also highlight interfaith events that's going on here in the Washington, D.C. area. So one event that's coming up in September is the annual Unity Walk that's hosted by the Interfaith Council of Metropolitan Washington. Now, the cool thing with that event is that people can go up and down what is known as, here is Embassy Row on Massachusetts Avenue in Northwest Washington. The cool thing about Embassy Row is there's also, houses of worship all along that on that road as well. So the event will usually start at the Washington Hebrew congregation, which is the synagogue, and then it goes past the mosque, and it goes past the Buddhist center. It goes past the Vatican embassy. So it goes to all these cool places. And I know once upon a time, I think they used to end it at the Indian embassy. I'm not sure where they're ending it this year, but it's just like all these different churches. Greek, it's like a Greek Orthodox church. And again, I mentioned all the various other religious groups in the Vatican embassy that's there. So that's another way Meetup Group serves the community. We'll advertise that and announce it in a group for people to attend. It's a big event they have here for the interfaith community. This year is the 20th anniversary. So I use the Meetup Group to promote those kind of events. So I tell people not only there's a TV side that we do with the production work, we're doing things there. There's also a way where you can actually meet in person with each other or meet virtually, and then you can check out all these various activities for people to do. Another thing I want to launch this fall is the casual conversations, and that's going to be more of a smaller group, and that will allow people to get together and versus like maybe the pup theology tends to be more of a small to medium format. This one is going to be more of a smaller, more intimate format where we're going to pick different topics to discuss. The one that's coming up in October, we're doing it around science and religion. I'm trying to still debate about doing politics and religion in November because I know that's around like election time, and that's probably might be a big thing here in DC as well. But we're going to do a science one for sure in October. So the link is below if you want to join and check out that, or I can send you that information if you're interested in participating in any of those activities. All right, getting back to doing the power of digital storytelling. And it's kind of just similar to what I mentioned before. Doing the interviews, and that's being one-on-one with people if you're comfortable, if that's your style. Some people may prefer to do group interviews. the cool thing nowadays is so much things could just be done on your phone. So back in the day, you would have to go to a studio, you would have to get all the big fancy computers. Nowadays, people can do that on their phone. Another cool thing about modern day storytelling is coming again from someone coming from a public relations and journalism background. You don't have to always pitch stories to the journalist. You can create the stories as we see now on social media, and the journalist will come to you. And I can even use an example in the weather industry. Again, when we have these like massive rain, thunderstorms, severe storms, people will take pictures or video from their cameras, their smartphones, and they will send them to us. We don't have to go out in the world. They will just send them to us. Or in some cases, if we're looking for content and we see somebody's content, we can reach out to you. And I think that's going to be a big advantage with us in the faith-based world with storytelling, particularly as there's less religion reporters. If you're someone who's pitching to those platforms. But the cool thing is at the same time with the social media platforms we have now between blogs and YouTube and even accounts like Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, you can bring the people to you. You don't have to wait. And like I said, you don't have to wait and go out in the world and say, hey, I hope somebody, picks up the story I want to tell. You could tell it yourself and they'll come to you. And I think the key thing is, again, as I mentioned, just making sure like we are telling those stories that don't get mentioned, that they're not being told. I think also because of a lot of the cuts in media, particularly I see it a lot in government and nonprofit funding, we may have to, take the lead more in developing those stories and crafting those stories and making sure we are the ones that are out there that's selling. Selling. I would say selling, but it is selling. We're telling the story to get people engaged in that. And just make sure, as always in this arena, we have the diversity, be very intentional about how you produce your content. I know for Interfaith Connections, when I first started, I was very intentional about making sure I had someone from the Abrahamic faiths, because you can always find people from the Abrahamic faiths. But I wanted to also make sure I find someone that's non-Abrahamic. And particularly, I always usually would seek out people from the Dharmic faiths. I'm like, I gotta have that balance. I said, people seen enough of the Christians and the Muslims and the Jewish communities. We gotta feature like other people too. So that was one cool thing with this project, that people started to magnetize to that from other traditions. And I've got people now on my contact list I can reach out to from the Dharmic faiths that can come on the show and share their perspectives on that. So I'm been very excited about doing that. And then now the next phase is what I've been working on is making sure we have the, I would say more so age diversity, particularly like now we have, was it Gen Z and this generation Alpha now. So looking into those realms and getting those perspectives, it's been a journey, because particularly with social media, each generation is like on their own platform. So it's just like, okay, what's out here now where I can find, millennials or the Gen Z, and making sure that we start tapping more into those platforms where those younger audiences are, so we can reach out to them and do that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to a lot of this. I feel like this is like an interfaith media empire I'm building, but I still am conscious of making sure there's like fellowship opportunities and people to connect locally. So that's been a really exciting thing they're doing with that on the production side. And let's stick to the next slide here. Speaking of young people, another thing that came my way, and that's another thing. And I was hoping I would have talked to people like Ruth, because I know Ruth is like, you are so busy, and this is why. So when I was in my 30s, believe it or not, I'm not in my 30s anymore. I was a member of the DC Interfaith Network for Young Professionals. And again, like the pandemic and people making their moves or their transitions, that was help leading it. People move on. So we were just saying, I was talking with some of the people I'm meeting, the Gen Zers and so forth, and they were saying they would like to be able to connect in networks and meet with other young professionals and figure out like how did they do what they did in the interfaith world to get them to where they are now. So I was like, wait a minute, used to belong to this young professionals network that focus on the interfaith world that could be something that they can, connect with. So I've been talking with a couple of colleagues here about how to revamp the organization or the network to make it more appealing to young people in that demographic that's interested in the network, particularly here in the DC area, because in addition to stuff being political here, we also have a lot of nonprofits here. And young people are engaged in doing, especially like international affairs work. So we have like Department of State here, a lot of the nonprofits, the NGOs, they're doing work in different parts of the world. And young people want to, meet people who've already been in that industry, get advice, or just again looking to socialize and network with people their age. So I decided with a couple of colleagues and just doing some research, I said, well, I think this will be a good opportunity to bring it back. So again, this is another arena where we're doing soft launches here with the DC Interfaith Network, and just getting a feel for what people want to do with the network and what would be good, to do an official in-person launch. So for this network, we're looking at doing it during World Interfaith Harmony Week to get the young people together in person to do that. Because I said right now, everything is still, it's like, okay, let's tap into the different networks here that we know and get introduced into new networks and connect in these environments where young people are working, and just like I said, get a feel for things that they'll be interested in doing. And then we'll have something solid in place, hopefully by the end of the year. So when it's time in February to do the relaunch of this network, we will have young people, young adults who will be interested in that, as well as making sure we have all the guest speakers lined up, because there's plenty. It's just a matter of getting everyone's schedule in sync, but we have plenty of people here who are interested and they would like to get involved, but we always got to make sure the schedules are in sync, because that tends to be a challenge here. It's just a very busy time and with some of the groups. So that's why I said, well, let's give us some wiggle room to make sure people will be available to get on their schedules and get them to talk. So yes, that's another thing that's happening here with the young professionals. Now you may say, well, I'm not in DC, or I don't fall in that age category. Where else can I go? The other thing we can go into in the interfaith arena is Interfaith Professionals. It is a group on LinkedIn. I don't know if anyone's already aware of this, but I've been a member of the group for years. And the previous individual, Robin Landry, who was running this group, she decided to step down, and she needed people to help with the group and keep it going. So as they could live this way. Again, this will be more virtual, so this is not going to be in-person events unless people are posting about their in-person events where they live. But pretty much this is a group that's based on LinkedIn. If you have a LinkedIn account, you can definitely join. I'm co-manager, so if you want to join today, the link is there. Submit, just put in that you're interested. We'll make sure you get approved. And you can get in that group as well as to network. One thing that I've been doing more with my colleague is Reverend Brian Wace, if you know who he is. We've been making sure a lot of the job openings get out there, making sure that people are sharing with what they're doing, but everything has to be free. You cannot sell things, you cannot promote things that's making money. This is strictly like networking, job opportunities, and sharing your content, things you're working on only. So this is a group that anybody can join, and it's global. Anywhere around the world, people can join this group to get involved and learn more about what people are doing, job opportunities, things of that nature, to find out, how can you connect with other interfaith focused professionals or people who are just in a faith-based community. Not everybody has sense do interfaith work that's in the group based on some of the content I share. I think some cases people are just saying, hey, check out this writing, this thing that I do here, just highlight their work. One person that shared in the group, I felt that had some really interesting things they were doing. It's an interfaith organization that takes, I guess, office spaces that's not being utilized anymore, and they're letting faith-based organizations or religious communities use that space free. That was one of the most interesting things I saw that someone posted in the group, and they're based in the United Kingdom. So if you're looking to connect with other interfaith professionals or faith-based professionals, that would definitely be a group that I will give a shout out that you should check out. So definitely consider, doing that if you need to do any more outreach with your interfaith work, or you, like I said, you just want to meet people. All right, let's go next here. The big one that comes up a lot. How do I get the money? How do I get the money? And I ask that a lot too. How do we get the money? So one thing I had to learn in my journey with doing interfaith work is we had to learn. I had to be realistic and say, do I have the funding mindset to make money? Is that a way that I can not realistically fund this? Because for the most part, I've been funding this stuff on my own. And people have told me, you're a digital creator, you're a social entrepreneur, think in that mindset, think of that way. But what I had to learn originally was, as I mentioned earlier, do I have any money blocks? And I did. I had money blocks going back to growing up, hearing money doesn't grow on trees and all that stuff about, kind of a scarcity mindset. So first I said I had to focus on me. I said, how do I get out of this, shift from having a scarcity mindset, like freaking out that I won't get these projects funded? And what I did was I said, okay, let me individually get out of my mind, that mindset. Let me do my own inner work, which was also part of my healing journey. Then I had to be real and say, we only think, again, that money comes from grants and big donors, things like that, versus like you can start small. You don't have to go straight to the top and find, like Uncle Moneybags or some big wig foundation to fund you. I said, look what's in your home, like look what's in your network, get the funding there and start that way instead of waiting around for the perfect funder. And one thing I started just basics. I went through my house. I'm like, what do I have that I can use? My computers, my equipment. One thing there, I said, you can build that way with what you got. And the other thing is, what do you have in your environment that you don't need anymore? Can you sell that? Can you trade it? Something, trade goods and get that going. And then I said, okay, we can start building from there. Like, how can I get the seed money? Because that was the foundational thing. Get that stuff, sell it. Some people, they decide to do side hustles. You may need to do side hustles temporarily. You may have to come up with other ways to make that money, make it that way. Um, then you can start focusing on how can you maybe get micro donations. People use services like Patreon, they use GoFundMe. Another one I found out recently was called Buy Me a Coffee. That made me think about where now. Because I know Coffee always talks about coffee in some of his promos. And it's like, okay, here's these small things you can do, and then you can, build it up and go from there. And then another way you can think about it as you grow is reaching out to the interfaith councils, maybe a storytelling foundation. You can collaborate with other nonprofits, universities, community organizations. You can do that. I mentioned, again, other kind of crowdfunding campaigns like Kickstarter. If you're lucky, there's corporate and faith-based organizations that will offer, you can get sponsorships from them. That's another way to look at it. And then you can just do it again as a digital creator. Look at the ways you can cost effectively run a YouTube ad or a Facebook boost and start getting the word out that way to build up traffic. And again, maybe if you have a podcast, you can build up a tractionnaire with getting funding. Who can you co-produce? Who can you collaborate with? You can do things together and maybe as a way to connect and get that funding. So that's another element you can do in regards to making that work, making that happen. And then generate the funding that way. It's just like first start on your bases, your home, and then you go from there and you just build it up and keep it moving and grooving from that. And I think that given those, and especially particularly like what can you let go at home first that could bring the money in, and then it's build your way up. Then you have it doing in steps versus it's like trying to rush to get to the top. And then the reminder, just say whatever you hear you building, it's building bridges. This is the goal. This is what you want to do. This is how you build a bridge. And usually that works. That's how I think a lot of people get funding. It's just a matter of getting more of your eyes on that project, and whether it's media or writing a book or doing any kind of artistic work. That's really like how a lot of people just get out there. You just got to get out there. Don't wait for the perfect time for this to happen. Just get out there. And that should help a lot. And then, of course, there's always your library. There's plenty of books you can read about building up social media channels. That's a big one that people do. And, just build from there and go from there. So that's what I would say in the kind of the gist of it. It's like, again, you don't need to get that big funder right away. Just go and do the things that you need to do starting right now, probably within your home, and go from there. So with that, I will definitely say in interfaith work, our stories are definitely bridges, and funding those stories mean we're not just hoping for change, pun there, we're building it frame by frame. So again, start with where you are, use what you have, and invite others to join you. And your project is not just simply media, it is a movement. Definitely a movement. All right. And with that, I did some talking. If you have any questions, feedback, I would love to hear from you about it. If you're interested in coming on the show, let me know. I can definitely, if you have stuff, because now I'm YouTube and versus being on public access, I can actually promote things and do all that on YouTube. I have more freedom there with that. So definitely can come on the show and talk about that or any stuff you have in mind. But yeah, feel free to shoot away, ask me some questions. And like I said, thank you again for the opportunity. And sorry about the technical difficulties and the time mixed up. I'm going to have a lot of people getting on my case later about the time. But this is being recorded, so we should be good. Thank you so much. Is everybody there? Is a mute?
You got a couple of questions from Autumn and Patrick.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Let me switch back here. Stop the share. Okay, I can definitely, you want to know about the meetup group? I'll type that in there right now for you. Okay. You're welcome. Yes, Patrick.
I think Autumn was first. Go ahead,
Oh,
Autumn.
I'm sorry. I just see like Rose. Yes, Autumn.
I came in like half an hour late, but I did but what I heard is interesting because I'm interested in storytelling, like videos and writing and drawing. And I'm also interested in finding an interfaith related job. So I just am starting my job search, but I guess this has given me the idea that maybe there are interfaith jobs.
Oh yeah. They are out there.
And so maybe like, yeah, getting the job and doing the media as like the side thing. I guess I don't know, I'm thinking out loud. Thank you for the presentation.
Sure.
Jackie, you should know that Autumn is one of the highlighted people in the Baha'i Interfaith team. She's put together the videos and she's a techie.
Oh, okay.
And for some of us who are over 30, we are over 30, aren't we, babe? Okay. It's just wonderful to have Autumn be able to put together the things that we are trying to do interfaith wise.
Cool. Yeah, I love it. Been doing this since my late teens. So yeah, definitely my calling for sure. Definitely my calling.
Yeah, I guess I'm up next. I put into the chat for you, Jackie, the link to our Vedanta Center in DC. I'm not sure if you're aware.
I am not.
Swami Atma Gyanananda is the head of center there, and typically our centers engage with the interfaith community in the area. So that's something for you to check out. He's a Western Swami, and definitely worth making a connection with him. That's one thing I wanted to point out for you. The second thing is I would be glad to join you on your program for an interview to talk about the kind of interfaith work that I'm doing here locally in Pescadero, California, on the South Coast. We are an unincorporated rural community. I serve on our municipal advisory council, and we have a COSIDE Faith in Action group. We have a county-wide clergy cohort that meets once a month. Both of those groups meet once a month. And our focus is on how we can be allies to the people who need us the most. We're a farm community. We have farm workers. We have immigrant farm workers. So that we're very active in supporting their rights and protecting our immigrant farm workers. The farm workers tend to live in undignified conditions, overcrowded housing, without access to clean drinking water, can't afford to buy the food they grow because their wages are so low. But the faith community has trained the farm workers to be their own best advocates to the government agencies locally, at the federal level, and we act as the allies, supporting them, putting them front and center. And so I think it's a very interesting case study, and we did highlight this during the Compassionate Action Conference. Our community is a compassionate action case study. And so I think that it's a kind of approach to all hands on deck that you might want to highlight as one way of being interfaith active.
Okay. Yeah, Patrick, definitely. And that's exactly the goal of what I'm doing, is to find faith-based or spiritual or people in the various belief systems whose stories are not getting out there. They're not getting out there, and I definitely want to be able to make sure those stories are being told. So yeah, definitely, let's do that. Let's do that. And I got your back on that. Any other questions?
Father Seamus?
Yes, nice to meet everyone. I don't know how I ended up on this Zoom, but I'm still recovering from a stroke, so I obviously must have pushed the wrong button at some point in the last week. But glad to meet everybody. Really encouraged by your work. Just wanted to lift up two things to you, Jackie, that I live and work in Washington, D.C. and have for about 35 years. When you talk about professionals, any more breakdown on that? I work mostly in the finance area and work mostly in terms of investments and faith-consistent investing and faith-aligned investing. So it's probably not a subject that keeps anybody awake at night, and most people try to avoid looking at their 401ks or how they might be what they might be doing with it. So, but anyway, we have a large interfaith group that works on this. And then the second thing is that in Washington, we have had for a number of years the Washington Interfaith Staff Council, which is most of the major faith groups in all faiths do maintain a Washington office.
Okay.
And we coordinate our advocacy with Congress and with the administration. We have once a month meetings and then walk the halls of Congress or organize some demonstrations or faith awareness events when there's particular legislation coming up. So it's a very lively group and very much clued in, because what encourages old people like me is that every year we get a whole new draft of young interns who can handle the technology and who are very energetic.
Cool. Yeah, I mean that's fine. Yeah, finance is definitely, that'd be a nice one for us to have involved, because I just usually tell people, is anyone who feels connected to this work, this move to this work, or just curious about learning, about different faith traditions or getting perspectives from those people of different belief systems. So you like me coming in media, I was pretty much the only person in a lot of these interfaith spaces, because they were either faith-based or they were working for the government, or coming from an NGO. So I was the only media person. So you are more than welcome to bring the finance people, bring the other groups in. That would be great. Because my core thing is definitely I want to connect and kind of help, even be an advisor or a mentor to young people who want to get involved in this work. Because when I meet the younger folks, they feel like they're the only ones out there, and they're just like, they were like, I didn't know where to go. They said I didn't know who to connect with. So I said, yeah, definitely, this is a good place where you can connect with people on that. Any others? Yes.
I put into the chat the World Interfaith Network website and also my email address, but part of the World Interfaith Network is that we have affiliates as well as interfaith groups listed in the United States, throughout North America, throughout the world. And one of the goals that we had when we first started was it would be a place that anywhere in the world that there was interfaith going on, you could learn about it. And so there are names of places and then websites in those places. And I have to tell you, few of them I haven't gotten to make sure they're updated. People change so quickly. But like Patrick said, he's got a great organization there that's doing some wonderful things. I want to make sure, Patrick, that you're on at least our affiliates page, so that people in the Washington area can find out about you. So please contact me. And as I said earlier, Jackie, let's make sure we have, we're working together to make sure that everybody is available. That here we are doing interfaith work. And I found some really unusual places that are doing interfaith work. And that's part of what Interfaith Awareness Week became.
Yeah, definitely. Because that's one thinking here, I don't know how many people on the East Coast are participating in, this week's activities, but I said that's, if I know I'm participating in it and maybe other people are not, that's why I would say to people, hey, today I'm going to be here. I can talk about the Unity Walk, that kind of thing. Yeah, so hopefully in the future, when I get it out to the word about, because I know for you, when you look for people to do presentations, you have to sign up pretty early, right? So it's like, yeah, it was 40 slots, and you got to make sure you're getting one of the 40 slots, or, that time's up. So I want to make sure here in DC that more people are signing up to participate, because that would give it, because it's nice to see people from different parts of the world or different parts of the country and different parts of the country. Um, let people know what's going on so they know who you are and what you're doing as a group. So that would really be important. Any other questions? No feedback? Oh. Any topics, any subjects, we can discuss. Finance is the one that comes up a lot. Finance, for some reason, finance has been coming up. I had a couple of my colleagues ask, can I do a show about how the different religious traditions deal with money? I would like to definitely get the Islamic perspective. I think the Christian perspective, that could be probably a series in itself, because there's so many dynamics around that. But finance has come up it's been the number one so far. I thought that was really interesting. Oh, you said interfaith, job?
Jackie,
Yes.
I just wanted to say that how grateful I am to have come to this one. I only started yesterday on them, and I was so uplifted. But I have been running an interfaith group for just maybe 2 years, and we are nothing at the level of everyone else here. But you have to start somewhere. And I'm my world and my vision of this has just been broadened. So
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah. So what do you do with your interfaith work?
So basically, my interfaith group seems to love to go do service. So we go into different, Episcopalian Church does an infant pantry, and we go work this infant pantry. It's a drive-through, and people get diaper wipes, formula, and diapers, and we just help them go, get their stuff. My faith group loves to do the Feed a Community, and it's for the Methodist Church. And so they love to go do, it's a food pantry and feed the community, and we feed it. And some of them, see, they need Spanish speakers. And so 2 of us in our group speak Spanish. And so we're always, they're always like so happy when they see us come. But that seems to be, we've gone to like the Hindu temple. We're about to go to a Sikh. I don't know if they call it a temple, but a Sikh one. We just went to a very fascinating speaker, and he's a former leader of a neo-Nazi group in the United States. I actually bought his book, and he actually changed from being the leader of a neo-Nazi group for he's been in it for 25 years, and he was the leader for a very long time. And he got out, and now is a speaker for the Leventhal, that Jewish group. But he was super fascinating. So we go to speakers. We belong to a bigger Orange County network of interfaith groups. So we're really small, but I'm so happy to be here and listen to everybody's input and what they do and how to further my little group. So thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Do you have do you send an email list or a newsletter group? Do you use something like MailChimp? What's out here, the different emailing platforms to let people know the work you're doing? Do you have anything like that? How do you let the community know?
Well, see, that's why we're really small, because it's just my little interfaith group within one religion. And so, and then we go out to the other religions. So I actually belong to an interfaith group for a very small one, because in Orange County, California, there's 13 of them.
Oh,
And yeah, there's 13 interfaith groups, at least minimum. And I only belong to one, and so then I get a running list of all of the churches, religions that are offering pantries or whatever that we could go and volunteer with. We get a monthly list of all of these, and I just pick them and say to my group, hey, do you want to go do this? Do you want to go do that?
Okay.
And I'm glad these are being recorded, because then I can just have my group and we can just say, I'd like for us to listen to this speaker, and it would be, great for us. And then see, since your background is so much social media, I didn't realize how big that was. And I actually have access to a social media person, and I'll include them because we're about to work on an event for my religion, but to invite all these churches to go and tour.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's something that in my religion, no one can usually go into. It's a temple. And I belong to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And these
Oh, okay.
temples are worldwide. But
Yes.
in our little Orange County, we're actually going to have a temple opening. And that's when the entire public can come in. And so since I belong to this interfaith group, my little interfaith group, we will invite all these churches to come to tour, and then we'll have a question and answer with them afterwards, and have some food, and just be able to answer questions that they will have about this temple that they just toured, because before a temple is dedicated, anybody can go into one.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's
cool.
Yeah. And so then I'll bring in the social media person to tell the stories. So this was so helpful. Thank you so much.
Yes. And my colleague, Ryan Coe, who is now the president of the Religion Communicators Council. I'm a past president. He's a current president. He is with Your Faith Community. Okay. I would reach out to Ryan at religioncommunicators.org and let him know what you guys are doing, because I'm sure he can help you. That would be a very important person. I'll put religioncommunicators.org in the chat, but that would be a very important person you should get in contact with.
Thank you.
Especially now since he's the president. And he's definitely part of your community. So I would say you reach out to him when you do that launch.
Jackie, that's the one thing that I hear over and over and over again, is a wonderful group like Ulu is doing, finding out, wow, there's others doing it too, and becoming part of a network of people. Southern California is one of the largest areas of interfaith groups. And in fact, when I first started Interfaith Awareness Week and began making a list, I believe it was that California had 82 interfaith groups. And then I went around the world, around the United States, and there were 64 in the United States. And I said, holy cow, why don't these people know about each other? And so building the network is so important. And for people to say, I'm not alone. I'm not alone.
And I think that's the important thing now with these, it's like all these networks, everybody's in silos. Everybody's in silos. It's like we need to get people connected so we can get the word out, so people know, we know who's out there and they're doing this fabulous work. And it definitely, particularly when you get to the point where you want to do things, like whether you want to reach out through social media or go through traditional or legacy media, you'll have the people in place that could guide you or assist you with that process too. So that's very, 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 very important on that one, for sure. Any other thoughts, questions, curiosities? Someone did ask me prior to this about doing stuff in the faith-based dating world, particularly what would it be like to if you date someone who is of a different faith than yours or a different belief system than you. And maybe in other cases, if you're trying to find someone who is into like this type of work, and is it possible to find people of like mind to date, or if you're looking for marriage that has the same belief about doing interfaith work. I think with that, from what I've seen in some of the conversations, I think sometimes I guess people are concerned if they're not familiar with other religions and how does that work, or maybe some of the things they heard about this other tradition, or you stay away from this particular faith group. But, and again, I tell people that may go back to just the lack of knowledge, lack of awareness. So if we're going to do a show coming from that faith-based perspective, I think there's still some foundational things people need to know about dating and being in a relationship. And then you highlight why do you want to marry somebody and maybe of the same faith, but may want to do interfaith work. Or if you marry somebody of a different faith, you have to think of things in mind. Do y'all keep the same faith? Is somebody going to convert into the other person's faith? How are you going to raise your children if you decide to have children? And again, I think particularly where you have things like online dating sites, a lot of that comes up, because I think, I notice as people get older, some people tend to kind of be more open to people of different cultures, races, religions. So that comes up a lot with me because I have experience in dating people from different faiths. And I identify as spiritual. I don't know if I mentioned that. I identify as spiritual. I came from a Catholic background, but I identify as spiritual. But I've dated guys from different religions. And some things are the same with guys across the board. You can guess a couple of those. And then there's others who may come from more maybe a traditional space. So you have to really just kind of get a feel for what people are and what they're looking for in regards to their dating search, whether they're dating just to date or they're dating for marriage. I don't know. Maybe that'd be a topic for next year, Reverend Albert. I was like, that's another one that comes to me a lot. I said, everything, if it's not money, it's about relationships. That's a theme here. That's a theme. So,
Jackie, I have a comment on that. So
yeah.
I said that I was new to Interfaith, and then this other interfaith group asked me to be their secretary, and I was like, okay. The president called me so I don't know all these different faiths and all the people that belong to this group, and so somebody told me, they go, don't you know that the president belongs to your church, which is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and her husband is a Second Baptist? And I go, what? I said, the president is married to a Second Baptist, and then he became an ordained, I don't know if they call it a priest or a father, an ordained, they invited us to all go to the ordination. And I said, wow, that is true interfaith. That is true interfaith. I mean, if you, and then so I was at a meeting and I just happened to say, oh, excuse me, but could you tell me your story of how you and your husband got together? And she started to tell. I was so flabbergasted that this president was, had been married for 13 years to somebody of a different faith, and they are still different faiths. And he comes on, he belongs to the group too. And it was just like, that is so true interfaith.
Yeah, and that's it. Definitely something to think about now. Again, because I said people are going, doing an online dating thing, and how does that play out? Like you're meeting people from different cultures. So yeah, I would get phone calls from people. Hey, Jackie, this person from this faith or this race or this ethnic group asked me out, or he approached me online. What do I do? I'm like, did you say hello? It's just like, I think people get like, and I see this with, and this is part of probably how the show is going to play out, because I see this with women a lot. I remember when I dated the first person from another, ironically Muslim, so that was a whole big thing. I'm like, I said, somebody has to explain this one to me, and because I have my interfaith networks, that's what I did. I was like, I asked the Muslim women and my Muslim colleagues, and they broke it all down. They said, well, Jackie don't really date, but I said, he asked me. It's like, how does this work? And they gave me a whole backstory about the person, the culture, the country they're from, things to look out for. So you just know what you're dealing with going into the scenario. And I think eventually, I guess the years of me dating different people from different religious cultures, then my friends and colleagues started coming to me because of the experience. But it's fascinating. I've come across couples, like I think there was one gentleman I know who came from a magical Christian background, but he married a Muslim woman. I was like, whoa, that, this is like, hey, I guess, when you meet the one for you, you meet the one for you. But there are considerations you got to take account into culture and whether or not the family, is feeling that connection. Because family family for the most part, maybe if they're traditionalists in particular, they're going to want people from this, particularly from the same background. And then there's some people who are just like, if you love that person, they're fine, they're cool with that. But yeah, that was one of the ones that came up on my list a lot. I was like, okay, I got to maneuver this one. I got to find some dating coaches. I got to find some clergy. I got to find some interfaith ministers. Because I really want to make sure those perspectives are being shared with that. So that's why sometimes with certain topics, I say, yeah, it's still developing because I just got to make sure I get the right experts and people who are comfortable about coming on the show to talk about that. But I love, every time I hear stories like that, I love it because it's just so cool to me. So yeah, definitely hopefully I can get that one. I would like to get that one up hopefully before New Year's. I know because I don't know for maybe some folks here generation wise, and this ties into weather because my background is also in weather. There's a thing called cuffing season. So you may say, well, what is cuffing season? Well, cuffing season happens like fall, winter months because people they don't want to be alone and cold, right? So they want to find people they want to cuddle and all that stuff. So they call it cuffing season, where people go out and they want to find like somebody to be with, maybe during that season, during the holidays. So you'll see a time period where probably between, like I said, the fall, winter month leading up to Valentine's Day, from the dating coaches I do know, those times of the year things spike up. So that's when you probably see a lot of people, probably the dating perspective, would probably want to get some advice, maybe even on dating from different cultures and religions. I need to get on the ball with that. But yeah, these are the type of things that come up when you're planning a show. It's like, how can I get the right people, time it right the air so people can, see it as a resource, or, just to find out what people are saying. So those are the kind of things you have to think about with your story when you're doing your stories. How is it? You got to get the timing right. You got to get the right people, and hopefully, like, people share their stories. I do want to do more on chaplains too. That's another one I've been wanting to do for a long time, particularly with chaplains. Because I want to, in the past life, I want to be an Air Force chaplain. So that's another one I want to work on.
I'll go ahead and just piggyback onto this interfaith dating thing. I'm not involved in the dating scene at all, and the whole thing baffles me at the moment. And then you add this other component of interfaith. That's an interesting challenge to navigate. I had a sociology professor who said, if you want a successful marriage, you should marry someone that's in your same religion and in your same class status. That'll make for a successful marriage. And yet, I do see stories occasionally about interfaith marriages. And so how to navigate interfaith dating is a topic that I haven't seen that is an opportunity. But I also see an opportunity for the children of these interfaith relationships to tell their stories about what it's like to live in a home where, maybe they celebrate Christmas and Hanukkah, and how do they or don't they navigate through their parents having different backgrounds and traditions? Is there a blend? Is there conflict? And is there challenges? That's a very interesting subject. So I'm really glad that you brought that up. That I don't think that has really. Occasionally I see things, but I think that deserves more attention.
Yeah, I would like to share. I want to do more of that. I know here in the DC area there is an interfaith marriage group, but it's more, I think it's Christian Jewish. But I would like to see like expansion beyond probably what that group tailors it to, because in my realm of the world, I see a lot of Christian Muslim, not as much as Christian Jewish, but not to say that my colleagues don't. Like this organization, I dated a person from the Hindu tradition. That was interesting. and again, it's not that they bring up the religion in itself during the, dating process. It's kind of like, this is where they grew up. This is what they believe growing up. But most cases, it's just like like say if they're 20s, if they're in their 20s, they're functioning like probably the average 20-year-old here in the United States. But I think sometimes, like what I learned when I was dating, I dated more than one Muslim person in my lifetime, one Muslim gentleman. It was like people just assume like I said, yeah, I got a date. I'm going to movies with so and so, and they're like, well, if he marries you, you got to cover your head and this, that, and the other. I'm like, I'm just going out to the movie. And you were planning the relationship 6 months to a year down the road. I'm like, let me just see what it's like to go to the movies. Like for some reason, we do a lot of that. Like we planning way down the road. way down the road. And I'm just like, no, it's not that serious. It's just a movie date.
And I also would add that, at the moment, staying away from partisan politics, but noticing in our federal government, we have a very high level interfaith marriage with the vice president, who is Catholic, and his wife, who is Hindu Baptist, and they're on the conservative side of the spectrum. So that's a very interesting cultural artifact there.
Well, I'm glad you also mentioned that, because this is something, being in the Washington D.C. area, I try to explain.
Jacqueline, I really hate to interrupt you, but to be aware of our time, this needs to kind of conclude at 9:30 because there's another 10 o'clock.
Okay. And I got to apologize for the late people. I put out the wrong time.
I just wanted to you. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No problem. Yeah. So the ones that you joined and got the wrong date, I'm going to take the recording off, and then I can do a brief rundown of what I talked about earlier. But just for conclusion, I want to thank everyone for showing up today. Thank you for the being able to do this presentation, and everything will be recorded, so you'll be able to watch it later.
Thanks, Jacqueline. It was wonderful. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good ideas.
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely. I'm going to go ahead and turn the recording off. All right. Take care, everyone.
So I guess